Ethan, did you hear? Sam finally hit the jackpot. Chuck slapped a hand down on my leg, the one without the cast, grinning like an idiot. I sucked in a sharp breath, nearly launching myself off the hospital bed. Easy, that's a leg, not a piece of lumber, I snapped, glaring at him. My other buddy, Robbie, leaned in with a mischievous wink. Seriously, dude, this girl is something else. She looks like she stepped straight off a magazine cover. Sam must have saved the universe in a past life to pull someone like her. I felt a genuine spark of happiness for him. Sam was the most down-to-earth, honest guy in our circle. If he'd found a great girlfriend, he deserved it. But as I looked down at the heavy white cast on my leg, that flicker of envy turned into a pang of longing for my own long-distance girlfriend, Sophie. I reached for my phone, wanting to send her a text. When Chuck leaned in close, his voice dropping to a gossipy whisper. The thing is that she's gorgeous, but man, she is clingy like next level. He paused, searching for the right word. It's like they're too into each other. I heard she even needs to know when he's heading to the bathroom. Speak of the devil. The man of the hour walked in carrying a gift bag of fruit and wearing a shy, boyish grin. Standing beside him was a girl named Lily. Long, dark hair, a simple white sundress. She was soft-spoken and still standing there like a portrait of elegance. Hey, Ethan, you feeling any better? Sam set the fruit down. He started to reach out to clap me on the shoulder, a reflex between us, but he pulled his hand back halfway, glancing tentatively at Lily. Lily gave me a faint, sweet smile. Her voice was like, "Honey, Sam talks about you all the time. He says you're his best friend." She picked up an apple and began to peel it with focused intensity. Her movements were graceful. The red skin spiraled down in one long, unbroken ribbon. Sam sat beside her, his eyes practically glued to her. There was a look in his gaze that was equal parts pride and total devotion. I thought to myself again, the guy really did hit the jackpot. Lily handed me the sliced apple. Here, Ethan, eat up. We won't be back on your feet soon. Her smile was pure, radiant, and completely devoid of malice. I reached out to take it, but as I shifted, a sharp jolt of pain radiated from my injury, triggering a sudden, stabbing headache. I hissed through my teeth. For a split second, the pain blurred my vision. In that flash of distortion, it looked like Lily's perfect smile had twitched into an unnaturally wide, rigid arc. It looked stiff, almost grotesque, but the headache vanished as quickly as it had come. I blinked, looking at Lily again. She was still smiling. That soft, charming smile. The weird sensation was gone. Just a hallucination, I told myself. Probably a lingering side effect of the car accident making me jumpy. I shook the thought away. After a few more minutes of small talk, they stood up to leave. Lily naturally tucked her arm through Sam's, leaning into him. Sam's round face was flushed with a happiness he couldn't hide. Get a room, you two, I teased with a laugh. But inside, I was happy for them. Once they left, the room fell silent. I immediately pulled up FaceTime to call Sophie. Her face appeared on screen, looking tired but warm. How's the leg? What did the doctor say today? She asked softly. Talking to her smoothed out the jagged edges of my anxiety. She was my reality, my anchor. Before we hung up, she teased me. Don't go pulling a Sam and forgetting all about me now that you've got your bros back. I laughed and promised I wouldn't. Outside, the sky was bruising into twilight. I leaned back against the pillows, but my head began to throb again. For some reason, that rigid, frozen smile I'd seen earlier kept flashing behind my eyelids. It wouldn't go away. I tried to convince myself it was just a trick of the light, but the unease settled in my gut like lead. The next morning, I decided to give Sam a call. I wanted to rib him a little more about where he'd found such a catch. The line rang and rang. No answer. I frowned and tried again. This time, it went straight to a robotic voice. The number you have dialed is currently powered off. A chill crept over me. What was going on? Was his battery dead? It wasn't until the following afternoon that Sam finally called back. Hey, Ethan. Sorry about that, he said. His voice sounded hoarse, heavy with exhaustion. Yesterday, I dropped my phone in the sink. Is that fixed? Man, you need to be more careful, I said, letting out a breath of relief. I was overthinking things. Yeah, he murmured vaguely. In the background, I could hear Lily humming a tune. It was sweet, light, and airy. "Sam, honey, who are you talking to?" Her voice drifted through the line, as gentle as before. "It's just Ethan," Sam whispered back. Before I could say another word, I heard a very faint sound. The sound of him catching his breath, like a sharp intake of air through his teeth. The call cut out abruptly, nothing but a dial tone. I didn't think much of it at the time. I just sighed and muttered to the empty room. Prick. Brothers before hoes, man. The day I finally got my cast off, I felt like a new man. I still needed a crutch to get around, but at least I was out of that room that smelled like bleach and despair. The guys insisted on taking me out to dinner to shake off the bad luck. "We're celebrating," Chuck shouted, throwing an arm around my neck. We got a booth at a local sports bar, the atmosphere loud and rowdy. Sam and Lily sat across from me. Lily was in her signature white dress, her dark hair perfectly straight. She was meticulously cutting Sam's steak into bite-sized pieces, dabbing a spot of sauce from the corner of his mouth with a napkin. "Damn, Lily, you're making the rest of our girls look bad," Robbie hooted. "Sam, you lucky dog. I'm dying of jealousy over here." Sam's face was a mask of smiles as he nodded repeatedly. His cheeks looked puffy, his expression fixed in a look of perpetual happiness. But as the others laughed, I noticed something off. Sam's phone was sitting face down on the table. Throughout the entire meal, he didn't look at it once, not even a glance. Yes, he's gone cold turkey on tech for love, I thought. Then a familiar sharp pain stabbed into my temple. I winced and instinctively squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, my gaze landed directly on Sam. He was still smiling, but it looked forced, like he was pushing too hard. It looked like a mask he'd carefully painted on his face. And in the haze of my headache, that mask seemed to crack. I saw it clearly. His mouth was curved upward, but his eyes were dead. There wasn't a trace of joy in them. There was only an ocean of bone-deep exhaustion. In fear, the headache passed. I shook my head and looked again. Sam was currently spooning some mashed potatoes for Lily, looking like his usual jolly self. Am I losing it? I wondered. This damn concussion is messing with my head. As the dinner went on, the noise rose. The guys were clinking glasses, shouting over the music. Sam sat there, his face flushed red from the beer, appearing to relax. Lily sat quietly beside him, tidying his plate. A young waitress walked over with a tray of fresh wings. "Watch out, guys. Hot plate coming through," she said softly. She moved to set the tray in the center of the table. At that exact moment, Sam reached for a napkin. His forearm brushed against the back of the waitress's hand. It was a tiny accidental contact. So brief, it was almost non-existent. "Oh, sorry," Sam said reflexively, continuing to pull the napkin. The waitress blushed slightly and murmured, "No problem." She set the tray down and hurried off to her next table. It happened so fast, so naturally, no one else at the table even seemed to notice the interaction. They were too busy listening to Chuck tell some raunchy joke. But my eyes drifted to Lily. This was a nothing burger, an accident that happens 100 times a day in every restaurant in the world. Nobody cares. But in the next heartbeat, I saw it. Lily's perfect, sweet smile vanished. It didn't just fade, it froze. Her movement stopped. Her hand, holding a fork, hovered in midair. That soft, submissive expression was gone, replaced by something cold and void, as if a mask had been ripped away. She didn't look at Sam. She didn't look at the waitress. She just stared down at the plate in front of her. Her eyes were terrifyingly hollow. A needle-like pain began to prick at the back of my skull. Oh no, not again. A second before my vision began to warp, I saw it clearly. Lily's knuckles were white. Her fingers clamped onto the fork with a strength that didn't seem possible. The thin metal of the fork pressed against the ceramic plate, beginning to bend, letting out a tiny, agonizing screech of stressed metal. For the rest of the dinner, the vibe was ruined. At least for me. Lily didn't say another word. She just sat there with a ghost of a smile on her face, looking like a porcelain doll. It sent shivers down my spine. Sam had gone quiet, too. His relaxation had evaporated, and I could see beads of sweat forming along his hairline. When I got home that night, I lay in bed, but sleep wouldn't come. All I could see was that bent fork and those cold eyes. On an impulse, I dialed Sam's number. It rang for a long time before he picked up. "Hello, Ethan." His voice was a whisper tight with tension. "Hey, you want to grab some late-night tacos?" "Old spot." I try to keep my voice casual. There was silence on the other end. After a few seconds, he stammered, I don't think so, man. I'm pretty wiped out. Just the two of us, man. A couple of beers just to unwind. I really can't." His tone suddenly became frantic. Then he forced it back down into a whisper. "Last time at the restaurant, I accidentally touched that waitress's hand." He trailed off, seemingly searching for the right words, his voice pleading. "Lily, she didn't say anything, but I know she's upset. It's not worth it, Ethan. Seriously, just forget it." Over a tiny thing like that, he couldn't even go out for a late-night bite with a friend. My heart sank. I was about to argue when a soft, clear voice drifted over the line. "Sam, honey, it's late. You should be coming to bed now." Coming. Sam sounded like a man receiving a pardon from a judge. He spoke hurriedly into the phone. "You gotta go." Click. The dial tone was cold and final. "Jesus, women," I muttered. Out of boredom and a nagging sense of dread, I opened up my phone. I checked Miss Instagram. It was a picture of suburban bliss. Photos of gourmet meals, scenic park walks, all captioned with sunshine and heart emojis. Lily was in every shot, smiling beautifully. It was as perfect as a model home. Then I remembered his old Twitter account. He'd basically abandoned it a year ago, but he used to use it to vent about work and post stupid memes. I searched my memory for the handle. I found the account, but the profile picture was now a default gray silhouette. The handle had been changed to a random string of numbers and letters. I scrolled through. 0 posts, dead silence. It was as if his entire personality had been scrubbed clean, like he was trying to erase who he used to be. A chill ran down my spine. He wasn't just staying off social media. He was being deleted. The headache hit without warning. My vision blurred in the throes of dizziness. I looked at the blank profile picture. It seemed to distort, twisting into Sam's face. A face filled with terror, screaming without a sound. I slammed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the screen was still blank. Only my heart was racing, thumping against my ribs in a quiet room. I didn't see Sam again until a group hangout a week later. He looked like a different person. He had withered away. His once round face was sunken, his cheekbones sharp. Dark circles hung under his eyes like bruises. He was wearing an oversized t-shirt that looked like a 10 on him. "Holy shit, Sam," Robbie blurted out. "Is love that powerful? You've lost a ton of weight." The guys laughed, joking about how he'd finally gotten in shape. Sam forced a weak smile that looked as fragile as wet tissue paper. He didn't say a word. Lily sat beside him, gently pouring him a glass of water. As she leaned forward, her sleeve slid up. A series of dark red, jagged scabs lined her pale wrist. They looked like angry redworms. "Lily, what happened to your arm?" someone asked. She immediately yanked her sleeve down, hiding the marks. She looked down at her lap, her voice soft and hurt. "We got a new kitten. He's a bit of a handful." Sam instinctively put an arm around her shoulder. His lips moved, but no sound came out. His eyes were a chaotic mess of emotions. Pity, concern, but beneath it all, a glaring, unmistakable fear. My stomach turned. Sam was deathly allergic to cats. There was no way he'd have a kitten in his apartment. So those marks, the headache started to simmer. I looked at Lily's innocent, doll-like face. For the first time, I felt it clearly. Beneath that beautiful skin lived something that made my blood run cold. The party ended on a weird, stifled note. I went over to Sam's place to pick up a video game I'd lent him. He knelt down by the TV stand to look for it. When he handed it to me, he reached out with his left hand. My breath stopped in my lungs. My eyes locked onto his hand, his pinky finger. The top half of his left pinky was gone. The wound was a gnarled, dark red mess of flesh that hadn't quite healed. He saw me looking and yanked his hand back as if he'd been burned, hiding it behind his back. His face went ghostly white. Your finger. What happened?" My voice was trembling. His eyes darted around the room, his lips quivering. I was chopping pork chops. I got distracted. It was an accident. Chopping pork chops. What kind of distraction leads to a cut that clean? It didn't look like a hack or a slip of knife. It looked like it had been held down imprecisely. I couldn't finish the thought. The headache roared back. A tidal wave of pain. The world spun and warped. In the dizziness, his hand behind his back seemed to become transparent. I could see the stump. It was smooth, terrifyingly neat, like it had been removed with a surgical blade, calmly and precisely. The pain receded. Sam stood there, drenched in cold sweat, looking at me with pleading eyes. He was begging me not to ask any more questions. I took the game case, my palms slick with sweat. I knew that was an accident. I couldn't take it anymore. I called the guys and asked them to meet me at a quiet coffee shop. I took a deep breath and laid it all out. The weight loss, the cat scratches, the missing finger, the suffocating control she had over him. I talked until my throat was dry, my heart hammering against my chest. When I finished, I looked at them, expecting help. Silence. Dead silence. Chuck and Robbie looked at each other. Then Chuck slammed his hand on the table and burst out laughing. Jesus, you missed your calling, man. You should be writing horror novels. Robbie shook his head, grinning. You've been watching too many movies, dude. Chopping off fingers. Why don't you just say she's an alien while you're at it? My heart plummeted. I'm serious. Sam is in trouble. The only one in trouble is you, Chuck said, his smile fading into a serious, pitying look. Ethan, we know the accident messed up your head. The doctor said it's PTSD or something. You're imagining things. Imagining things. I felt like I'd been doused in ice water. In their eyes, I was the crazy one. I wandered over to Sam's apartment building that evening. The night air was biting. I needed proof. Anything. In a corner by the dumpster, a crumpled, torn piece of paper caught my eye. I don't know why, but I picked it up. Back at my desk, I carefully smoothed it out and taped the pieces together. It was Sam's handwriting, but the content was bizarrely sweet. Spent the afternoon at the lake with Lily. The sunset was gorgeous. Her home-cooked dinner tonight was perfect. I'm so happy. Even though I've been exhausted lately, it's all for our future. Luckily, I found the best girl in the world. Our love is everything. Very much in love. Everything is perfect. She's my world. My heart is full, eternally hers. Every line was dripping with love and satisfaction. Had I really been wrong? Was I just losing my mind? A wave of disappointment and a fresh headache hit me simultaneously. I gripped my temples, my vision swimming. Instinctively, my eyes scanned the start of each line. In a haze of the pain, the first letters of each sentence burned into my retinas like hot irons. Sheilufsme. She loves me. Wait, no. Look closer. I read again. It wasn't a love letter. It was a pattern. It was a mandated report, like a prisoner being forced to write home. My phone vibrated in my hand. A new message request on WhatsApp. The profile name, Lily Vance, made my heart constrict. How did she find me? I accepted. She messaged immediately. Good evening, Ethan. Smiling face with smiling eyes, followed by a cute cat emoji. I stared at the screen, paralyzed. Then a second message popped up. Ethan, I'm not sure how to say this, but I feel like you and Sam are maybe a little too close. I froze. What? Male friendships are great, but you have to know when to keep your distance, don't you think? Her tone was still sweet, almost playful, but the subtext made my skin crawl. Sam has me take care of him now. I'd appreciate it if you stayed a little further away from my Sam. She sent a pouting emoji. Otherwise, I might get jealous. I stared at the screen, cold to the bone. She wasn't warning me because I'd found her secret. She was warning me as a romantic rival. She was marking her territory. Late that night, my phone screamed on the nightstand. An unknown local number. I answered groggy. Hello. Heavy, frantic breathing on the other end. Who is this? Ethan. It was Sam. His voice was raspy, broken, like he was forcing the words through a throat full of glass. It's me, Sam. Where are you? He said both the notes. The diary. She changed them. His words were staggered. The signal was terrible. What? Sam, talk to me. The fridge. Ethan. The Friday. His voice was suddenly cut off by a burst of static. Then Lily's voice came through the line. So sweet. It was sickening. Sam, honey, it's so late. Who are you talking to? Click. Dial tone. It felt like a cold snake coiling around my neck. I called back. The phone was off. Sam was gone. I rushed to the hospital the next morning and demanded a full brain scan. CT, MRI, the works. The results were perfect. Physically, you're fine, the doctor said, looking over the charts. The headaches might be psychosomatic, stress, or trauma-related. I took the clean bill of health to the guys. I told them about the last phone call. Chuck stayed quiet. Robbie frustratedly rubbed his face. Ethan, Chuck finally said, his voice heavy. Drop it. Sam's mom posted in the group chat yesterday. They're on vacation down in the Keys. Just the two of them getting some sun. Vacation. I practically screamed. He was begging for help. That's what you heard. Robbie snapped at us. It sounds like a bad connection. You're obsessing, man. It's PTSD from the crash. Another friend said, gesturing to my medical report. The doctor said, you're fine physically. This is all in your head. Then how do you explain the finger? The weight loss. I demanded, my eyes bloodshot. That's their business. Chuck stood up, looming over me, his patience finally gone. Ethan, we've been friends a long time, so I'm saying this once. Stop harassing Sam and his girlfriend. If you don't, we're going to have a problem. They grabbed their jackets and walked out without looking back. I was left alone in a cold, hollow despair. The whole world was on the other side of the glass, looking at me like a madman. I locked myself in my apartment for 3 days. The curtains were drawn. Sam's broken voice looped in my head. The notes, the diary, the fridge. The word felt like a curse. I sat up suddenly and started tearing through my drawers. I found it. A spare key Sam had given me years ago. Just in case I lock myself out, you can come save me, he joked. Now he really needed saving. I gripped my crutch and stood outside Sam's apartment door. The hallway was deathly quiet. My palms were slick, the key cold in my hand. I knew breaking in was a crime, but I didn't have a choice. I took a deep breath and slid the key into the lock. Click! The door swung open. A wave of lavender air freshener hit me, mixed with a faint metallic clinical scent. The place was silent. It was too clean. It felt like a showroom, a tomb. I looked past the empty living room, straight into the kitchen. My eyes landed on the silent, massive stainless steel refrigerator. Sam's voice screamed in my ears. The Friday Dage. I hobbled into the kitchen. The low hum of the compressor was the only sound in the silence. I reached out, my fingers trembling, and yanked open the freezer door. A cloud of frost rolled out. It was mostly empty. A few trays of ice, and, on the top shelf, a single clear plastic container. Inside was a slab of bright red meat. The marbling was exquisite. The fat was perfectly distributed. It looked like a high-end Wagyu steak. But something was wrong. The grain of the meat was bizarre. It didn't look like any beef or pork I'd ever seen. I leaned in closer. The headache hit like a sledgehammer. My vision warped and spun. The light from the freezer turned a sickly, bruised green. In that distorted light, the meat seemed to shift. The swirls of fat twisted into a sickeningly familiar pattern. It looked like human tissue. I saw it then. 1 or 2 short, dark, curly hairs embedded in the flesh, missed by whatever preparation had taken place. No way. Violent nausea and pure terror gripped me. My stomach did a somersault. Cold sweat drenched my back. My head felt like it was splitting open as everything began to rotate and zoom. The container, the meat, the hair, Sam's voice, the fridge. Darkness rushed in from the corners of the room. It swallowed the light. It swallowed my mind. The last thing I felt was my body collapsing, hitting the linoleum floor with a dull thud. Ethan, honey, wake up. A soft, gentle voice pulled me out of the void. I opened my eyes to find myself lying on Sam's kitchen floor. Lily was kneeling beside me, looking down with concern. Her face was inches from mine. Beautiful. It made my blood turn to ice. Why are you fainted on the floor? Is your blood sugar low? She asked sweetly, reaching out to help me up. I scrambled backward, hitting my back against the cabinets. My eyes darted to the fridge. It was closed. I came to pick up something for Sam. I croaked. Lily followed my gaze to the fridge. She smiled. She walked over and opened the freezer, pulling out that same plastic container with effortless grace. Were you looking at this? She asked, turning back to me with a harmless, sunny grin. Sam bought this premium steak just for me. He said I needed to stay healthy. She cradled the container like a precious treasure, stroking the lid. Then she looked at me, and the mask finally fell away completely. Deep in her eyes was a cold, predatory madness. A total, terrifying sense of possession. Do you know why Sam loves me most? Ethan, she whispered, tilting her head. Because he promised we'd be together forever. Truly as one. She took a step toward me. The container held to her chest. The shadows of the kitchen swallowed me. You need to get well soon, Ethan. Her voice was as light as a feather, but it carried the weight of a death threat. Every hair on my body stood on end. I scrambled to my feet and fled. I ran faster than I ever had in my life. Crutch be damned. I didn't go to the police. Who would believe a mental patient accusing a perfect girlfriend of having human meat in her freezer? They would just lock me up in a psych ward even faster. A few days later, a screenshot appeared in the group chat. It was a post from Lily's Instagram, a photo of a one-way plane ticket to Miami. The caption read, "Starting our spontaneous road trip through the South with my Sam. Not sure when we'll be back. Don't miss us too much." Underneath was a string of likes and comments from our friends. Have a blast. So jealous. Chuck sent me a private message. See, they're fine now. Stop being a psycho. I stared at the photo. There was only one ticket. Only Lily's name was on it. Sam only existed in her captions. He only existed in the photos she posted later, scenic shots where he was always a distant, blurry figure with his back to the camera. Everyone believed in the Great Vacation. Everyone except me. A month later, my leg was healed. The cast was long gone. Life seemed to return to normal. No one mentioned Sam anymore, as if he never existed. No one looked at me like I was crazy. That night, I was on a video call with Sophie. She was finally finishing her job and moving to the city to be with me. Her smile was as warm as ever. Once I'm there, we're never going to be apart again, I said, feeling a rare moment of peace. Sophie nodded eagerly, her eyes sparkling. Yes, when I get back, I'm going to be with you every single second. She leaned closer to the camera, her voice dropping into a playful, clingy whisper. I'm going to keep you locked away with me forever. My smile froze. At that exact moment, my head began to throb. On the screen, Sophie asked with concern, "Honey, what's wrong? You went so pale all of a sudden." I looked at her smile. It was so familiar and yet so terrifying. A deeper, more absolute chill began to crawl up my spine, spreading through my entire body. Could she also be? Yes. Story complete.